Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about instrument families. And I know you've got a couple of questions. So instrument families, what are they? And how do I recognize them? Well, I'm so glad you asked. So let's talk about them. We're actually going to spend most of our time today talking about one particular instrument family. Instruments are divided into groups based on a couple of things. These groupings are called families. And those two things are, what is the instrument made out of and how does it produce sound? Today we're going to talk about the percussion family. The percussion family is anything that you can hit, shake, or scrape. Now, what examples can you think of? We've used a lot of these in our music class, right? So let's think of a hitting example. A drum, a xylophone. Now, a shaking example, we haven't used a lot of those, but we've definitely used at least two. Maracas, those little egg shakers we have, and tambourines, which, by the way, can also be hit. And of course, our scraping instruments. Now, I know first thing you're thinking of is our rhythm sticks that we scrape, our lumi sticks. These are actually another version of a scraping instrument called a guiro. Now, we have used guiros in the past, but we don't have a lot of them. And of course, right here, we have a lot of our instruments from our classroom, and most of them belong in the percussion family. We have maracas, we have our glockenspiel, our bells, we have our guiro, that little fish-shaped thing down here at the bottom. We have our drums of different kinds. We've been using sound shapes lately because they're easier for me to carry on the cart. And we've got our tambourine and castanets. So these are all percussion instruments, things you can shake, scrape, and hit. So in our books, if you're in third grade, on page 145, we talked a little bit about several different percussionists. Remember, percussionist is the technical name for someone that plays percussion instruments. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Evelyn Glenny. Evelyn Glenny is from Scotland, which is on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. It's on the same island as England. It is the top part of the island. England is the bottom part. And her specialty is actually xylophone. But as a percussionist, she is able to play all kinds of instruments. And of course, when she visited with Oscar the Grouch and wanted to be a part of the Grouch-Katir band, how could I not share it with you?
Go on, Evelyn. Play something for Oscar.
Okay. Let me take my shoes off.
You're going to play with your feet? Hey, this could be grouchier than I thought.
Well, it's just that it helped me hear the music.
Evelyn's deaf, Oscar. She can't hear.
Yeah? Then how could she hear what we're saying?
I'm reading your lips, Oscar.
Oh, well, quit reading and start playing. I haven't got all day.
Okay.
Whoa.
I told you she was good.
Yeah, I'll say.
So, can she play in the Grouch-Katir band?
No.
But Oscar, you said she was good.
Well, I don't need good. I need grouchy.
Wait.
Anyone recognize those?
Yeah, not grouchy enough. Sorry, audition is over.
But Oscar, you gotta let her play. She came all the way from Scotland just to play in the Grouch-Katir band. And Evelyn can play just about anything.
Anything? How about my trash can?
Your trash can? You want a great musician.
Remember, friends,
like
anything
Evelyn
you can
Glenny
hit,
to play your
shake,
trash can.
or scrape.
Stand back, please.
Well,
So I mentioned earlier that Evelyn Glenny's specialty is actually the xylophone. Now, the xylophone is an instrument that is made mainly of wooden bars, and depending on the size of it, can be larger than a piano. It can also be small enough to pick up with two hands, like the ones we have in our classroom. And just like in our clip from Sesame Street, it mentioned that Evelyn Glenny is deaf. So she's had to accommodate her deafness by sometimes taking off her shoes, feeling vibrations a little bit differently. This is very similar to what Beethoven would have done while writing music. This is Evelyn Glenny performing the Maple Leaf Rag, which was a piece of music written by Scott Joplin and originally written for piano, and she has adapted it to play on xylophone. Now, there's a reason that sometimes we see some Japanese subtitles there. One of Evelyn Glenny's teachers is actually from Japan. Her name is Keiko Abe, and we'll talk about her in a minute. Okay, so like I said, Keiko Abe is one of Evelyn Glenny's teachers. She's had many over the years as she has studied around the world. And Keiko Abe is a famous Japanese percussionist. Her main instrument is marimba. Now, marimba is very similar to xylophone, but you're going to notice as the camera zooms out a little bit, it's got these gigantic tubes underneath. These are called resonating tubes, and they help the marimba ring for a longer amount of time. Xylophones, the sound doesn't ring for a very long time. You kind of hit the bar and the sound dies off very quickly. Keiko Abe is world famous for her ability to play marimba and actually designs a lot of instruments, and was for quite a while contracted by the Yamaha Music Company. No, not this. It is the same company as the ATVs and ski jets and all that, but she was contracted by the music portion of the company to design instruments for them. And you'll see she is a very talented lady.
Hi, I'm Keiko Abe.
Can we just talk about the fact that she's holding 3 mallets in each hand? We can see the resonating tubes there. So here's the funny thing. A lot of people don't realize a piano is a percussion instrument. So let's see how that works.
The grand piano is a stringed instrument which allows the musician to play multiple keys at a time. In this two-part series, I want to show you how it works. In part 1, we'll go over the different pieces of the piano and what happens when a key is pressed. In part 2, I'll show you what the foot pedals do and how they work.
We're not going to worry about part 2 today. We're just going to do part 1 because I want you to take a look at how the inside of a piano works and why it actually fits into the percussion family.
Let's The grand piano has been around for over 300 years now. You'll find one in just about every concert hall around the globe. Let's start today by looking at the lid. It's propped open to give the full sound of the piano. While no one is playing the piano, it's usually best to close the lid to avoid collecting dust. For the best sound during a performance, the lid is usually open towards the audience. This also lets the crowd see the keys that are being played. I'm going to remove the music stand and the lid so we can get a good look at what's inside.
Take a look at how the inside looks a lot like a harp that has been laid down.
The first thing you'll notice are strings, lots of strings. They are stretched along a cast iron frame which has to be very strong to support the tension. Towards the right, the strings are shorter and thinner to produce higher sounding notes. Towards the left, the strings are longer and thicker to produce lower sounding notes. The different lengths of strings is what gives the grand piano its unique shape. The vibrating of these strings is what makes the sound you hear. This won't happen until a key is pressed. There are 88 keys on a grand piano, 52 white keys and 36 black keys. Each key is actually a long lever which you normally can't see. By pressing a key, there's a chain reaction that happens which causes a hammer to strike the strings. Most of the keys strike 3 strings at a time. For lower notes, they strike 2 strings, and the lowest notes only 1 string. The lower notes don't have as many strings because the strings are thicker, so they produce more sound. The motion of the hammer involves a chain reaction. Let's take a look at just one of the keys. This mechanism is referred to as the piano action. Let's break this down piece by piece. Pressing the key causes the lever to go up and down, just like a seesaw. This next piece is called the whippin. It's pinned in place at the end, which allows it to rotate. Of course, it's not actually floating. It's attached to a long bar that spans the length of the piano. The repetition lever is pinned to the top of the whippin. The top of the lever hits this screw, causing it to rotate just slightly. There's another bar holding this piece in place. The repetition lever has a hole allowing for another piece to go right through. This piece is called the jack. It is pinned to the right of the whippin. As it goes up, the toe hits this cylinder, causing it to rotate. Once again, another bar holds this in place. Notice at the end of the motion, the jack sticks out a little up here. And finally, we have the hammer. The top of the jack is what gives the hammer the final push. The harder a key is pressed, the harder the hammer hits the strings, which means a louder noise. This also means that if you press the key soft enough, you won't hear any sound. Notice how a key can be pressed repeatedly and the hammer still works. This piece is called the damper. You can see that it actually rests on the strings. Pressing the key causes the damper to rise, which allows the string to vibrate. But as soon as you release the key, the damper comes back down and stops the sound. Okay, now imagine this hammer mechanism 88 times. One thing you'll notice is that the highest notes actually don't have dampers. This is because the sound fades away so quickly that the dampers don't really make a difference. Now you know how the keys work, but there's a lot more to the grand piano.
And we're not going to talk about all of that right now, but you'll notice those hammers, they strike the strings. and that's how we get the sound. Remember, percussion is anything you can hit, shake, or scrape.